On this episode of the Dr. Tina Show, The Quick and Dirty, I'm going to be talking about all things skin cancer. So, this is a new program, you guys, called The Quick and Dirty. I've decided I wanted to add in some short and sweet clinical podcasts into the main podcast selection. So, I'm going to be covering clinical data, studies I find, information that I think is relevant, clinical pearls, all of that crammed into short and sweet nuggets of podcast info called The Quick and Dirty. So enjoy this episode. We're going to jump right in, all things skin cancer. So last week, if you follow me on Instagram and you read my stories, you saw that I asked for prayers. I was actually in the dermatologist's office at that time, and I was scared because she was about to excise a rather sinister looking mole out of my back. What happened with that was I had found it the prior Monday, and I was in the shower and something was itching me. And backstory on me, I have a ton of what are called atypical nevi. These are strange looking moles that if you didn't know better, you would think they were all cancerous because they're all very strange looking. And these are known to turn into melanomas. And so I've been warned my entire life while having them cut out of me that these could turn on you. So keep your eyes out. Well, I have neglected my dermatological yearly exams, my mole checks for many years now, particularly after the nonsense around COVID started. Because I live in Oregon. It's crazy here. Everybody's wearing N95s. I don't really want doctors performing surgery on me when they can't breathe. It's a whole thing. So anyway, I was in the shower Monday night and I felt something itching me. The water jets hit me just away and I was like, that itches. And I start itching it and it feels large. And I was like, what the heck? And I get out of the shower and I look in the mirror and it was bad, you guys. It was a bad looking mole. I didn't know where it had come from. I didn't know what was there prior. I just knew this thing was big. It was over 7 millimeters. And I didn't know what to think, except I have identified a lot of moles on patients that turned out to be melanoma. As a chiropractor, as someone who did a lot of physical medicine, I get to see a lot of people's skin. And so I've got people face down on the chiropractic table or on the treatment table, and I'm looking, over their backs. And I'm like, hey, that doesn't look good. I don't like this mole. Go get it checked. And most often they came back saying, you were right. It's melanoma. And if you guys have ever spotted a melanoma or had one, they often look sinister. They often look black and sinister, like a little, demonic entity, if you will. So I immediately thought this is melanoma. And I ran out to my husband and I said, I think I have a melanoma on my back. I'm pretty sure. And I was crying at that point because it was bleeding. And I don't know if it's because I had scratched it, but it was kind of oozing and, not to be gross, but it was scary. And I don't have a primary care physician established. I don't have anything situated out here in the country where I live now. So I haven't been to the doctor since I moved out here, except to a chiropractor that I know locally. So I didn't know what to do. I immediately got on the phone the next morning with the dermatology clinic where I have had other skin cancers removed. I had a basal cell carcinoma removed, a large one several years back, and it was a very rare type. And so I called them immediately. They were basically telling me it was going to be months and months and months to get in. I submitted online on this program called MyChart. I submitted an e-ticket, and thank God a physician's assistant got back to me within 2 hours and said, I can get you in Thursday morning. So by the graces of God, I got in, I got it cut out. Fortunately, not a week later, I got the results. It is benign, but it was changing. It was called what is known as a junctional nevi, a melanocytic junctional nevi, which means the melanocytes, which are your pigmentation cells in the skin, were definitely changing. They were replicating, and it was a pre-melanoma. So I got it out in time. I'm clear. I'm good, you guys. Thank God. Thank you for all the well wishes and the prayers. You guys really came in with full force. My DMs just exploded with prayers. So thank you so much. I firmly believe in the power of prayer and group prayer at that. So I'm very grateful. I know that I got a sign from God in the middle of the night, a few nights before I found it, telling me something was wrong. And I listen. I get these like direct downloads that are just, I don't know how to explain them. And you can think I'm crazy if you want, but they're very specific commands to keep me safe. They're never suggestive of anything. It's nothing like that. It's just, it's like when I shut my Telegram channel down years ago in the middle of the COVID craze. I just knew immediately. I just got this hit, like, shut your Telegram channel down. You're in danger. I've removed videos off of platforms because I've gotten the hit, like, you're in danger with this, because as they're blowing up and going viral, knowing that's going to put me on the map and targeted. So I listen when I get these weird hits. And I got a hit a few nights earlier that something was wrong. I didn't know what to do with that information. And it turns out I had a pre-cancerous lesion. So thank goodness that's all clear. But I want to share with you today a bit about skin cancer, because I am not going to stay out of the sun. And I know my dermatologist probably doesn't want to hear that. I am a big fan of the sun. I think that melanomas are an interesting type of skin cancer, because while they are clearly the most dangerous and they are the type that do metastasize, there's different types of melanoma. I'm not going to get into the details there, but just know melanomas are bad news. You want them off of you. They can metastasize, meaning they can go elsewhere in the body. Some forms can happen very, very quickly within months. And the PA who took it off my back told me it would have been 6 months to get in if had this been other circumstances. So imagine if you've got a fast moving melanoma and you've got to wait 6 months. I mean, that's a sad ending. So we got to keep vigilant eye on these things. And I told my husband when I married him, I said, I have a lot of weird moles. It is your job to keep track of them and keep your eye on them, because you see parts of my body I don't see. And he didn't take me seriously. And now he is. So he's very apologetic. Melanomas are bad. They tend to come on somewhat fast. I know that one of the Kardashians just had one, my daughter told me, on her cheek, and it did not present as a black, sinister looking thing. So when I tell you about these different types of skin cancers, just know that they can all present looking very, very, very different or very similar. So if you have something weird on you and you're getting an energetic hit that something is off, especially when you touch it, go get it checked and get it taken off. Just be safe. I ended up in a clinic that didn't take my health insurance and I have to pay out of pocket. And I was like, I literally don't care any amount of money, take it off of me. And I know not everybody can do that, but it's, if it's going to cost you $1,000 or $1,500 to get something cut off of you, do it, especially if you can do it quickly. So first off, with melanomas, let's go through the ABCDs, because these are the bad guys that we don't want on us. And it's pretty simple. So just remember ABCDE. It used to be ABCDs. Now it's ABCDEs. And this is how it works. A is for asymmetry. So one half of the mole is not symmetrical with the other half of the mole. And it doesn't match. They don't match sides, right? They're not mirror images. They're not nice and round. They are weird shapen. That is your first sign. B is border, irregularity or changing border. So this border not only was this asymmetrical, but the border was very jagged and did not look at all smooth. So it was bad news. It looked like bad news. C is color. The color of a melanoma is often not uniform. So it will be speckled. It will be various shades of brown and black. It could be, I think it was Khloe was the Kardashian. Hers was actually very kind of a muted color. It wasn't dark brown or anything. So, but it was the color. She did have asymmetry. She did have irregular border. I saw the picture of it, and she did have not uniform color. And the color will be changing oftentimes. The one on my back, the color was changing. The diameter is really important. If it's over 6 millimeters in size, get it off of you. I don't care what it is, get it off of you or get it checked. Let the doctor decide. 6 millimeters is the size of a pencil eraser. Mine was 7 millimeters by 5 millimeters. So mine was pretty big, especially if it's growing. This thing did not, if it had been there, I didn't know it, because nothing that big was on my back a few months ago. I remember a few months ago having my husband look at my back, because I had a little itchy spot for months and months and months. I had something that was itching me and I didn't know what it was. I still don't know what it was. Maybe it was a blocked pore or something, but I kept having him look at my back, and this big old ugly thing was not there at that size. And it certainly wasn't as dark as it was. And then E is evolving. So evolving means, is it growing in size? Is it changing in color? Is it changing in shape? Is it crusting? Is it bleeding? If you have anything on your body that you touch and it bleeds, get it off of you. That is called friability. That's a bad sign. That's usually indicative of cancer when something becomes friable. So if you have something that you keep scratching or you keep, fiddling with and it keeps bleeding, go get it cut off of you. Itchiness can also be a sign, and this was definitely itchy. So all that said, that's your ABCDEs. Now let's talk about some of the less dangerous skin cancers. Oh, quick note on melanoma. I don't always think all types are caused by the sun. In fact, there is data showing and suggesting that some of the most virulent types, the types that kill people the fastest, are the ones that show up on the palms of the hands or feet or in the mucosal oral, in your mouth, wherever your mucosa is, most often the mouth. The sun doesn't shine there. So while some could be contributed to the sun for sure, some may not be. Who knows with this one? I burned the crap out of my back when I was a kid. All right, so basal cell carcinomas, these are relatively common. You probably know somebody who has had one or more. They often will show up eventually in people who've enjoyed the sun their whole lives, and they'll show up in the face, the ears, around the head. These do not tend to metastasize. That said, there is an invasive aggressive type that does. Don't, blow these off, but these are less concerning if you find them. Statistics say that less than 0.1% actually go metastatic, meaning they move through the body. These tend to be more superficial on the skin. They don't tend to go deep. Melanomas like to grow in. That's why they metastasize more readily, but these tend to stay more superficial. That doesn't mean it's okay to not have it treated, but these can usually be treated early. If you do some cryotherapy, they're often burned off. Sometimes they'll be excised. I ended up having to have Mohs surgery on mine. Mohs surgery is a whole other thing, but these are not as concerning. They grow horizontal on the skin and they don't tend to go deep and penetrate. The next one up, which is also fairly common, is the squamous cell carcinoma. 12% of these can metastasize into something bad. So we definitely want to get rid of these. These often start as what's called an actinic keratosis, which is sort of a red, crusty, maybe itchy little lesion on your skin. Looks surprisingly like a basal cell carcinoma if you were to go to the interwebs and start looking at photos. So to the untrained eye, you're not going to know unless you have a dermoscope, or maybe they even have to, biopsy it to find out. So actinic keratoses can be removed relatively easily. They can be burned off and contained. That is generally the standard, at least as much as I know it and have had the experience of with patients, family members. I've never had a squamous cell carcinoma that I know of, but back when I was being trained in medicine, actinic keratoses weren't even covered by health insurance because they were considered that benign, even though they were precancerous lesions. So they often times can look like these basal cell carcinomas. So go get them checked. And these do tend to grow more horizontal than, they grow horizontal and vertical. So they tend to be more often vertical compared to basal cell carcinomas. Still not as invasive as a melanoma, but there you have it. The basal cells and the squamous cells definitely caused by the sun. Real quick, I'm not going to get into it too much on this episode. I firmly believe, and have always believed, if you're eating a lot of crappy fats, we used to call them omega-6s. Now they're referred to as seed oils. I've been talking about this for decades. If you're consuming a lot of omega-6s compared to omega-3s and your ratio is off, your diet is garbage, I firmly believe that is contributory to our skin cancer epidemic that we have, is the advent and introduction of all of these horrible seed oils. The second thing that I would say is concerning is alcohol. We do have data to show that if you drink alcohol in the sun, which a lot of people do, and I have been guilty of, you are more prone to skin cancer. So what we want is a high antioxidant diet, low omega-6, low seed oil, basically. Don't drink in the sun. I know it's fun to lay by the pool in Vegas and drink, but you may be contributing to future risk of skin cancer with that. So I will leave you with that. I appreciate you guys. Let me know how you like this episode, and maybe any follow-up questions you have, you can email the podcast at podcast@drtina.com. And as always, please go to your favorite podcast player and rate, review, and subscribe. It helps to get the message out. We'll be back.